Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Rosie and Bill Show. From stand-up comedy to hosting a popular cable television show to tormenting telemarketers, our guest this week has been making people laugh and making people think for years. Please welcome to the Rosie and Bill Show comedian, actor, and author, Jim Florentine. Hi, Jim. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on. How you guys doing? All right?
Doing
We're
great.
doing great now. Absolutely, Jim. Great having you on. We've been looking forward to this and got a lot we want to talk to you about. Like Rosie just said, you've been doing so many things and you've been successful on so many fronts over the years. Your versatility is absolutely amazing. But what I'd like to do first, Jim, is kind of take a trip back to long before you were taking the stage, making people laugh and tormenting those telemarketers and writing books. Back to when you were a kid in school. What did you think you wanted to be when you grew up?
Yeah, I don't know. I really don't even remember what I wanted to be. Probably like a rock star or a baseball player. But I was always getting in trouble in school, so I was always the wise guy. So I knew there was some kind of comedic angle, or probably so I was going to go down that path.
Did your teachers always say like, "Oh, what do you think? You're funny"?
No, they more yell at me and get suspended and all that other stuff. Yeah.
Hey everyone, thanks so much for tuning in. We appreciate each and every one of you. And we also appreciate our first and longest running sponsor of the show, Tom and his team of insurance professionals at the Malin Agency. If world-class customer service and doing business with someone you can trust is important to you, give Tom and his team a call today for all your insurance needs.
When did you discover comedy? Was there something that you saw, a specific comedian that influenced you?
Rodney Dangerfield was a big influence. I loved his quick one-liners and his movies and everything. So I was a big Rodney fan. I like Richard Pryor. I like comedy. When I was about 12, 13 years old, I took a liking to comedy. And then, as Andrew Dice Clay, Sam Kinison, those guys like that came around. I really took a liking to that because they almost brought like a rock star mentality to comedy. Selling out arenas, opening for bands and doing all that stuff, and Dice with the leather jacket on. So that's what really gravitated me towards the stand-up.
So how old were you when you actually went to do your first show or open mic?
Probably like 23, 24. Yeah, I mean, it took me a while to get up on stage. I was DJing on the radio. I went to school, got a communications degree, and I was DJing. I had my own DJ business, and I was on like a local radio station, New Jersey. And that's what I thought I wanted to do. But then once I saw, those guys get on stage, I said, I want to be my own boss. I was always getting in trouble at what I say. I had to play like Phil Collins constantly, and I couldn't stand him. And I'm like, this isn't for me, because I'm like a metalhead. I'm like, I can't play, Susu Studio. The song stinks. So I decided to go up in like an open mic night. I was writing stuff for a while. It took me about a year or two to actually get up on stage, get the guts to go up and, and do some public speaking. And once I got up there, I fell in love with it.
That's great. How long, I'm wondering, because it varies for everyone, but I've heard that it takes comedians a while to get their sea legs and also find their voice as a comedian. How would you say that that's still evolving for you, or when did you feel like you kind of settled into that?
The usual rule of thumb is the 9-year mark.
Wow.
You'll find, it takes 9 years to really hit your stride and find your voice and get really good at it. You could get good at it before, but the general rule of thumb is about year 9. You should be getting to the next level.
Wow.
So that was probably about the time, 8, 9 years, somewhere around there.
Well, Jim, when you look back, say, at those early days, that first open mic night, and those first few years of that 9-year or so period, what are some of the early lessons that you learned as a young comic coming up?
I was just happy that I was making a living. Like, as soon as I was making a living at what I loved doing, whether it was like $300 a week, I was still living at home. To me, I made it. I'm like, I already made it because I love doing this and I'm getting paid and I'm paying my bills. So to me, like, I always had that attitude. But, I always had goals, obviously, too. But, just I just put my head down and worked. I didn't care what anybody else was doing. I didn't get jealous of any other comics that were doing better than me that started. I never had that jealousy. I just said I always said there's room for everyone. And, and that's just my philosophy with it. So it's worked out.
Yeah, just make a quick comment that just came to mind is when you mentioned the $300 and you said earlier about, going to college for communications. So Rosie and I, we got 3 boxes here, 3 people with degrees in communications. So that means that when you were making about $300 a week, you were on the upper tier of earnings for a communications graduate. Congratulations.
Yeah, I know. What my first radio job, I was doing mornings at this radio station, Keyport, New Jersey. I was making $100 a week, 6 to 9. They go, "We're going to give you the morning show." So I was doing a night shift. I'm like, "I'm going to be the morning man." Wow, it was $100. But I took it. I'm like, I can't. I know. And then I had to work a day job after that or whatever. But it was exciting for me, and that didn't last too long. But no, But again, back to the comedy. Once I started making a living, I'm like, this is great.
Where did you draw your inspiration from for your writing? And did you ever feel like, oh my gosh, what am I going to write about next? Or does it just flow easily for you?
That just I don't sit down with a pen. I'm not that disciplined and a notebook and write. But it's personal experience, stuff that happens in real life. So just when it happens, it happens. Sometimes it happens on stage, whether you're ad-libbing or something like that. But yeah, I just just whatever's going on in my life basically is what I'm talking about at that moment.
It's interesting that you say that because some comedians, every comedian has their own thing. Some have gimmicks or characters that they portray on stage. But with you, it just seems very authentic. And with the changes in the comedy industry over the years, especially recently, do you feel that it has been difficult at all to stay true to who you are?
No, I never changed. I'm the same guy on and off stage, and I've never changed my act. I don't care. The media is not going to dictate to me when I'm not allowed to say a word anymore, or all that, because that's what they basically do. They just all of a sudden make that decision for you. I'm like, no, I'll make it. I'll decide when I want to stop talking about that subject or saying that word. So I've never have. I just always look. I knew I wasn't going to move to Hollywood and be an ass kisser because I'm not like that. I'm not that type. You have to be a certain type of person to be that desperate to do that. So I just knew. I was like, I'll just do my own thing. I don't care.
Well, and Jim, kudos to you for staying true to who you are. And that's one of the things I've really admired about you over the years. No matter what, you have stayed true. You say what's on your mind. You're very direct. And you also said something a couple of minutes ago that I just have to bring up because you talked about ad-libbing. And that reminds me of those days when you were tormenting those telemarketers. And I went back over the last week and listened to some of the greatest hits. The vacuum salesman when you didn't have arms, when you called from the receptionist to the office administrator, I think to the general partner, got them all worried about their job. And it was just, I'm sitting there thinking, oh my God, he doesn't break character. He's completely improvising. Was that a skill you were born with, or is that something that you've learned over the years? Because it's amazing.
Yeah, no, I've always been like a ball buster. So I've always been like, just messing with people. So for me, it's easy, and I play it, straight. I never laugh, especially over the phone. It's easy when you're not when you don't see them face to face.
Hello, yes. Could I speak to Mr. or Mrs. Florentine?
Yeah.
Yes, I guess this is Mr. Florentine?
Mrs.
This is Mrs. All right. Well, my name's Derek. I'm calling from the vacuum factory. They'll offer you a 30-day in-home trial with no money down and no obligation to buy.
I'd like to have a vacuum. I don't have any arms.
I see.
The vacuum, like the top piece, would I be able to?
It's a looped handle.
Would I be able to? Because I probably have to use my mouth to push it. I don't know. Is it a heavy vacuum?
It's only 8 pounds.
8 pounds. That might work.
I probably wouldn't recommend it.
Why is that? So I could sweep the floor with that, no problem. You could use a broom.
I've always just played dumb. Like I just play dumb. And it's like, I realized with telemarketers, they're just happy that someone stayed on the phone and didn't curse them out or hang up. So I would just play dumb. Like, hey, I'm just trying to get the information. I just say the stupidest stuff to see how long they would stay on the phone.
Well, I love the bit you do about the windows and the woman's like, well, wait a second. We can't come over and replace, windows that aren't connected to walls. Like, what are they connected to? Or they can't hang in midair, and you're like, well, they kind of are.
Yeah. She says, how can the windows just be hanging in midair? And I go, they just are. And she goes, okay, we'll take a chance on this. I know. How can I know? I just I figured she was going to hang up at that point. She said, okay, we're going to take a chance on this.
So when do you tell them it's a joke?
When it's an incoming call, you technically don't have to get permission because they're calling your house. If it's an outgoing call, you have to let them know. But you call back or they'll call back because they hung up or I hung up, and then you tell them, and they're fine with it.
I love that.
It's good training. They probably could have used so many of your calls as good training sessions for up and coming telemarketers. And since that job has like a 90% turnover rate monthly anyway, they'd have to keep using it.
Yeah, well, you have to have you have to have patience, and also like they can't believe that this person is staying on the phone. They're like, even though he's acting like an idiot, he's saying really stupid stuff, I might have a sale here because I just had 25 people in a row hang up on me, tell me don't call, I'm not get me off the do not call list, whatever like that. So I have an advantage with that.
The one guy was cursing at you from the Union Bank or something. Or
oh yeah, I love that. The angrier I can get him, the better. Yeah, the guy was he was going to come overhead and blow my head off with a shotgun.
I can't believe he said that to you on the phone.
I know, it's great because you could tell he was cupping the phone. He's like, I'm going to come over there because he's probably at a cubicle, so he couldn't say it out loud.
And you weren't even being that obnoxious, quite honestly, at that point in the conversation.
I think he was just a frustrated telemarketer. He's like, you got to be kidding me. Yeah.
It was his third day on the job. He was burnt out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and the other one, Jim, that talk about keeping them on. The guy from The Record, where there was a special deal for 26, and I think his boss got on the phone. That was the longest one I think I've listened to, and he stayed. Daniel, I didn't remember.
Daniel.
He stayed. Daniel hung in there.
It was 9 minutes and 46 seconds of him just asking me if I want this newspaper, and I just kept going, the what? Yeah. The what? Like I couldn't hear him. He's like, The Record. The what? The Record. Goes on. And finally, after 9 minutes and 46 seconds, he goes, sir, do you want the paper or not? I go, no. And that was it. I mean, he could have just said that 30 seconds in, it wouldn't have been a call. But we waited because I knew he was reading off the script, and he didn't want to, go off the script because he was brand new. Yeah. So you could tell like he was flustered. He's just sticking with the script in front of him.
He tried to confirm your phone number like 25 times. I'm sitting there listening going, dude, you called the number. Why are you confirming?
I know.
That's crazy. Well, I'm curious, how would you compare working as a stand-up comic to performing on screen in films? Because you have had experience and done films as an actor.
Well, you get the instant laugh on stage. So if you're in a comedic scene filming, there's no laughter, and obviously no one on the set can laugh at that either. So you're used to working off of laughs. So that's a little weird. And then you have to do it like, 8 or 9 different takes, even though, the take was great. So with TV or film, they make you keep doing it over and over again, and you got to kind of keep it fresh. So it's a lot different than doing a stand-up in a club.
Jim, I have to say another thing I wanted to talk to you about, just a couple things other than that as well. One being the time you spent on that metal show. And I know you mentioned earlier on about, music, and it's pretty clear you love metal. So what are some of your favorite memories? Because I think you were, about 7 years or so on that show?
Yeah, 7 or 8 years. Yeah. I mean, we did, I think 130 episodes on VH1 Classic. No, I mean, it was great. I mean, just to be on it was basically like the Tonight Show for AC/DC fans. And, I loved that music growing up. So just that I was actually on a talk show, and I knew everything. I really didn't have to do any research on any artists because I was always wanted to ask them these questions. So it was a dream come true.
Yeah. And I think that comes through to anybody who watched the show. And I'm going to pivot into another show that you're on quite frequently. It's one of my favorite shows. I just love when you're on Gutfeld. I know it's going to be some quality comedy. I mean, it's a great show every night, but when you're on, you're on your A game, and it's just a pleasure to watch. So, Jim, one thing I'm curious about with that show is, Do you guys know what he's going to come at you with? Do you get any prep beforehand? Because he's got his papers and you see the Sharpie through all the papers, and then he just starts rattling off after his monologue. Do you have any idea what's coming before it does?
Well, yeah, a few hours before we tape the show, they give us the topics of what they're going to talk about. So if the topic is Alec Baldwin and his wife have a new reality TV series, what, you know, and they'll send you a couple of articles. So then Greg will come to me, Jim, what do you think about the reality series? So he doesn't know what I'm going to say. I don't know how he's going to say it, but we do have the topics, you know, so, but nothing else is scripted, which really like loose the show, which I love.
Yeah. That's the beautiful part of it. You can tell it's extemporaneous, and I love it.
It really is, yeah.
But it's good that they, you know, they don't catch you completely off guard. Like, even though you're quick, it's nice to have the heads up to just make sure you know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, most TV you know, shows do that. But yeah, no, absolutely, because it'd be really tough if he just comes up with a topic, goes, what do you think? I'm like, I have no idea. I don't know.
Right. Yeah. Wouldn't be so great of a show. Let's pivot now to your tour that you're doing now called No Apologies with Tom Cotter and Tammy Pescatelli. All three great comedians, all three headliners. How's the tour going, and what fun is it touring with those two?
No, it's great because, you know, when you start headlining, you don't really see other people at headline too, because we're all over the place in different clubs. So you rarely get to hang out and see each other. So it's great because I used to work with Tom back in the day, and I worked with Tammy before. So now we do these shows and we're all hang out together, which is very rare. And it's great. They're awesome. We've all been around a long time. We know what we're doing. We're professionals. There's no drama. There's no nothing. We just go up there and do our job. So it's a lot of fun. It really is.
Yeah, and we want our viewers to know, because people that watch the show know that we are located in suburban Philadelphia. And there is a venue in suburban Philadelphia, the Keswick Theater, where you guys are going to be coming on July 19th. And I know you've played in this area and played that theater before, right?
Yeah, I've done it before. I think I opened for Andrew Dice Clay there. And we did a Crease with Kids tour with Bobby Kelly, Rich Voss, and Ron Bennington. I was doing a tour with those guys. So I played that place a couple times. And I've been there for concerts. I love that place. It's a great venue.
It is. It's a really good venue.
Yeah, it really is.
Do you enjoy meeting the guests afterwards? What's the craziest audience experience you've had as a comic?
Well, you know, there's constantly drunks like every night, whether in the crowd and then after the show, if you're in the lobby talking to them, you know, sometimes they get really obnoxious, you know, and then if you're standing behind a table or something like that, you're kind of trapped. You can't, you know, and the person won't leave. You know, and they'll come up, you know, I was just talking during the show. I don't know why they told me to shut up. I go, because you can't talk during a comedy show. You know, I was just trying to help out. They always think they're helping out. I'm nothing really crazy, but it's just every night there's usually 6 out of 7 nights there's a drunk in the audience that's yelling stuff out.
Oh, do people say to you when you meet them in person and find out you're a comedian, hey, say something funny?
Usually, sometimes, but usually not anymore. I never tell them I'm a comic if they don't know, because then that opens a million different questions. Do you have an agent? Do you guys travel together? You know, all that stuff. So it's just mindless questions. So I just tell them, you know, I do real estate or landscaping. Landscaping, they have nothing to say about that. Oh, you got your own business?
Telemarketer.
No, I go, they got your own business? I go, nah, I work for someone. And then you're not going to go, what kind of weed eater do you use? You know, do you have a riding mower or a push mower? So that shuts it right down, because I've been on a plane before where people have, you know, no, you're a comic, and it's just, they're asking a million. So do you have an agent? Do you have a manager? Just like, it doesn't matter. You know, I don't ask what you do.
Yeah.
I don't, even if you told me what you did, I wouldn't be asking a million. So how do you get paid? Do you like, you know, so you get a check every 2 weeks?
Wow. Yeah, it is amazing sometimes how brazen and the things that people will just blurt out and ask, isn't it? Wow.
No, because they'll say, do you get paid? Like, do you make a living doing it? Like, you know, it's just like if you told me you're a real estate agent, I go, really? Do you like to make a living doing that? Wow, so how much could you make? Like, no one would ask that for any other profession.
You're right.
But they have no problem doing that. So like, do you have to pay for your hotel? Do you have to pay? It's like, who cares?
It is. You're right. As anyone in the performing arts, that's the first question. I think it's because people are used to hearing about the starving artist mentality and whatever. And that's like, it is one of the first questions that
Yeah.
you know.
Or maybe some kind of jealousy because they're not doing something they love to do. So they're going to try to hope that you give them some figure or some number that's going to make them feel better about themselves.
Maybe that could be it too.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I'll tell you, Jim, one last thing that I wanted to ask you, because we've talked about so many of the different things you've been involved in. And like I said in the very beginning, your versatility is amazing. I'm curious, though, looking forward, actually looking back at all the different things you've done, writing a book, the television shows, being an incredible stand-up comedian. If you then look forward, is there anything, let's say, on your list of things to do that maybe you haven't done yet that you're looking forward to still doing?
Probably not. I'll probably just put a couple more comedy specials out, keep pumping them out and do it for as long as I can. I always thought when I was in my 30s, I'm like, yeah, maybe I'll stop when I'm 50. I'll be done. I'll retire. I'm like, then well, retire for what? It's still fun. I still love doing it. I really think about it. Like, I'm my own boss. I could say whatever I want, and I could dress whatever the way I want and do whatever and work when I want. So it's like, you can't have more freedom than that. So it's amazing. It really is. And, so I just cherish every moment. As you get older and stuff, you just really start to enjoy it more. And you even take it more serious. Like, I love still getting up on stage.
Right.
It shows.
Does your family support you? Like growing up, did your parents like support this dream of yours?
No, they did. My parents, my parents wanted me to go into real estate with my brothers, and my dad was into it too. And I was like, I did it for a little bit. I'm like, this isn't me. And I think they were a little, disappointed by it. But then when I found out, I go, Dad, I really like this. So I told my mom and dad, they go, okay, then go for it. If you like it, that's fine. So a lot of people don't get that support from their family and friends. And my family and friends always would come to my shows in the beginning because you needed people to bring people to go on stage. So they've always been supportive. But it was really nice that my parents were. They both said, hey, if this is what you like, go for it.
Yeah, I'm sure they're very proud that you did make a living out of it and are still making a living at it, because it's not an easy business, but it just goes to show you got to listen to your gut and trust that which direction you're supposed to go in.
Yeah, and it's like, and there's no guarantee. There's so many funny guys out there that should be mega stars that no one's ever heard of because they just didn't get the break. But I remember when I saw that movie Office Space, I said, I don't want to do this. I never want to be in a cubicle. And that really motivated me, that movie. I'm like, there's no way. So I got to do this or nothing.
Wow. That's pretty powerful, Jim, right there, because, like you said, it's very competitive. It's not easy. And we've been blessed to have, quite a few incredible comedians like yourself on the show, and just hearing the stories of how you guys decided this was something you wanted to do. And that's why we asked those questions about those first few years, because we know it's not easy. And then you look at how the world's changed and everything. It's like it's never easy, but when you love to do it and when you still stay true to who you are, that's all the more reason why I admire and respect you. And I really appreciate you joining us today and sharing your story with us, because it's very admirable in addition to being freaking hilarious.
No, I appreciate it. Thanks. Yeah. Look, I don't let that outside, all that chaos that's going on social media and everyone crying and complaining, oh my God, you can't say this. I don't even let that stuff affect me when I write and when I perform. I really don't, because most of it is just noise. The people that are coming to the club are not walking out. They're not getting offended. They know who they're going to see, the comedian. They almost want to hear stuff like that. They almost want to hear you being edgy. So really, that does stuff that never enters into my head. I better not say that.
Well, that's good. That's good, because I think we do need that now.
Yeah.
And I think it's important.
Yeah.
Well, Jim, thank you so much for coming out and joining us. We wish you all the best on the tour. We look forward to seeing you in July. And folks, once again, we thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.
Wow. All right. I'm going to say a lot of awful things here tonight. Because if you think about it, comedy stage is the last place in public you could say awful things, so. Because they can't cancel me, because I got nothing going on. Okay, I don't live in Hollywood, I don't play by the Hollywood rules. I live in the suburbs of New Jersey. There's nothing they can take from me. Maybe if they took my lawnmower, I'd be upset. That's it. Other than that, I do a podcast in my house from my kitchen table, okay? You can't take anything. I'm not going to put my kid in Catholic school yet because I just found out his teacher is 32 years old. She's single. She's a hot blonde. Yeah, I had to go meet with her a couple of weeks ago when I looked her up, and I was like, oh, shit. So when I met with her, I rented a tux. I put cologne on for the first time in 15 years. I got a spray tan. Yeah, I'm going to wear her down. I figure I got time. But I asked my kid the next day, hey, was your teacher talking about me? He's like, no, please. It's like that. She's 32-year-old. You got no shot. He's like, you would have better shot my 72-year-old first grade teacher. I go, yeah, I took her out once. It didn't really work out, you know. Yeah, she wanted to go to dinner at 4:30 in the afternoon. I'm like, fuck that. Yeah, sorry, I don't want to go on a power walk with you. But I told my kid, look, the only way I'm going to be able to date your teacher is you got to start causing problems in class. Because then I'm going to have to go in there and meet with her, and that's how I'm going to get to know her. I go, so start knocking desks over, throw chalk, punch kids in the face, whatever you got to do to get me in there. And he gets all nervous. He goes, yeah, what if mom finds out? I go, we're going to have a new mommy soon. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. And new mommy's going to have all the answers to the homework because I don't know shit.
This week's episode has been brought to you by Doherty & Company Insurance Services for all your business and personal insurance needs. Our friends at Tennis Addiction in Exton, PA. And the Malin Agency, where exceeding expectations is how they do business.